Welcome back to the Burn Bootcamp podcast. I am so excited to be joined here by one of our very own members of Burn Nation, LeAnna. I knew I was going to get that wrong. Thank you for joining us. Will you just introduce yourself a little bit?
Yeah. Hi, I'm LeAnna. Pretty much a Charlotte native. Been a member since March. I don't know. The year has flown by.
Yeah. But this year.
This year, I did.
Yes,
I joined this year. Yes. I'm an EMT. I'm in paramedic school. And I also teach acro dance.
Okay. Oh, acro dance. That's awesome. I need to learn more about that when we finish this podcast. But we have LeAnna here because she has an incredible story that she's about to share with us. Her journey is just really inspiring. So let's just get into it. So can you tell us a little bit? I think it was 2017. Can you start with like what happened in 2017?
Yeah. So in 2017, driving home from work, and I was hit by an impaired driver under the influence of marijuana to the point that she didn't know she was driving a car. She ran a stop sign and T-boned into me, and it led to me having head to toe injuries, had a head injury. They initially actually thought I might have broken some vertebrae in my neck. They couldn't tell because of the blood in there. I had internal bleeding in my pelvis and a dislocated elbow, kind of just, beaten up all around, and spent 12 days in the hospital and then moved straight to inpatient rehab for 18 days and then did 18 months of outpatient therapy after that. Had to do everything, relearn to walk, relearn to feed myself. I didn't really have to relearn to drive per se, but occupational therapy was really great about getting me in the car and just helping me feel better about driving again. Obviously, that was a little scary.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that's kind of where it started.
So, I mean, not only was it clearly a lot of physical stuff, but then mentally, I mean, that's scary. I know that they had given you some pretty scary diagnosis. Like they told you things that no one wants to hear.
Yeah, I just remember at one point the doctor sat down with me and said, the life that you probably were living is probably not where you're going back to. My mom was preparing the house with things like getting the doorways widened. They said, you're not going to walk again. At this point, we think your best bet is to look at how you're going to live your life functionally in the wheelchair, giving up on the things you thought you were going to do. I was teaching gymnastics at the time, and they said, you won't step back out on the floor. They said, just learn that you're going to live life very differently than you thought you planned to live. I was 23 at the time. That's not a news anyone wants to hear ever. But at 23, I just, it wasn't at all what I thought I was going to hear.
So when receiving that news how long after the accident did they come up to this, like determine that this is what they were going to tell you?
The first neurologist came to my hospital room probably like 3 or 4 days in, and that neurologist was very convinced that this was permanent SED news. Oh, wow. We're 72 hours in. I am still... Honestly, I was kind of all over the place at that point. Everything hurt. I wasn't really with it mentally at that point yet. Just kind of my brain was like, hold on.
What just happened?
Yeah. So my mom got that news really more than anything. Then she told me. Then I promptly forgot. She had to tell me again. Mm-hmm. I would get up to try to go to the bathroom and it wouldn't happen. And I would just forget. And so she had to really put through like all of that with me.
How, like mentally, because you're physically going through a lot of stuff. And the fact that you just said you went to get up to go to the bathroom and just to think you couldn't do that. Like, talk about just your mental state in that moment.
I think in the beginning it's, they say like the 5 stages of grief, but I feel like I went through that there. It was like denial. Like, the doctor's wrong. Clearly he doesn't, with his big degree, doesn't know what he's talking about. Yeah. And then it was... I honestly, my mom always likes to, she glosses over this really well when she talks about it, right? Mm-hmm. She says, oh, you just handled everything so well. But we can't forget, there was definitely times I didn't handle it well, especially, so I transitioned home with my mom. And at 23, your mom's helping you shower, helping you put your shoes on. There's definitely a couple moments of anger, really true, just anger. Like, why? I was doing nothing wrong. You know, I just happened to be in the literal wrong moment, wrong place, wrong time. And now I'm angry. Definitely a lot of sadness. You know, definitely just, there's so many emotions and you feel them all at once and then cycle in a nasty head injury. Your brain doesn't function as well as it should be. So you don't always process them all as you should. But I don't even know, like, I guess we all like hope when we go through something, we're going to come out resilient. And I think it was about day 5 home. I had just come home with my mom, like, so like day 5. And I was laying in bed, you know, ready for the morning. And I just thought to myself, this can either destroy you or you're going to have to move on. Okay, cool. If this isn't how we're going to live our life, okay, you know what? Maybe I won't be a gymnastics instructor anymore. Maybe I won't be able to do these things. What can I do? Where am I going to be? What am I going to look in my 1 year from here, in 6 months from here, in 5 years from here? Am I going to look back and recognize that all I did was lay here and wallow? You know, of course I saw, like a therapist after all this. It was very important. And they did recognize there's a lot of importance to self-pity. Sometimes we have to have those moments and have those moments, but don't sit in those moments forever. And it became that moment for me where I just, like I said, I had to get up and go. You know what? People in wheelchairs do all sorts of things. Actually, I follow a nurse on TikTok. She's in a wheelchair. And there at that moment, it was just, you can do whatever you want. You don't let this hold you back. And maybe you'll learn to ski in a wheelchair. It was just a whole thing. I can't ski normally, but maybe we'll learn, you know? So it was just, what are my opportunities? How can I move forward? But also the mentality of, I am also not ready to settle for that. Like, while I always had that as, I think I got to being kind of accepting, I also didn't accept it. I thought, you know what? Doctors are wrong sometimes. I love doctors. I'm an EMT. I spend a lot of time with doctors. But they can be wrong. So it became every waking moment was physical therapy, physical therapy, physical therapy. I mean, my mom's house was actually set up kind of well. We had a spot I could hold on and walk when I started getting there. And I did, just moment after moment after moment was, what can I be doing? Oh, I'm in my wheelchair and now let me lift my toes a little bit. Oh, you know, I'm cooking. Mom, don't help me. Like, it was everything that I could do. Then it was things we do take for granted, like cooking while you're standing is very different, because if you're sitting and you want to take something out of the oven, well, you can't always just reach up to put it on the, you know, counter. So you have to figure out how to make sure you have stuff on your lap to be ready and move. So it was making all these adaptations, but also always keeping in the back of my mind, I don't know if I'm ready for them. I don't know if this is where I want to be, and continuously working through to get back to where I was.
It sounds to me almost like mental tug of war, because you're not only which is so incredible that you had the awareness to say, like, that either this is what's going to happen and this is just how it's going to be, or I can do everything in my power that I know that I can do to try and improve and just see if the doctor is wrong. Because you don't know. At that point, you're just like, we don't know, but I don't know unless I try.
Yes.
But then you're also having to, at the same time, not only keep that mental toughness, but then have to relearn how to do the things like maybe what people would consider a simple task of cooking becomes totally different when you're sitting in a wheelchair. So I guess you're going through all of this. How did you have, obviously a lot of support. Obviously your mom sounds like an incredible human being that really supported you in all of this. Did you have like a game plan? And like, talk us through what happened 2017. Clearly she's not in a wheelchair now, guys. So the doctor was wrong. Spoiler alert. Like, talk us through kind of the progress that you made to get to where you are today.
Yeah. So not a straight line, obvious. You know, I think that's such a cliche saying, but it's so true. So when I say it, it's just, it just makes a lot of sense, you know. So yeah, I definitely had my mom as my big support. Also, we switched a couple of doctors, and their mentality was, let's move forward. Let's get you back to normal. What do you want? You know, the silly thing of having a whiteboard with your goals on it.
Not silly.
I love that one. It's something I still use now. I have one in my living room.
It's a great tip. Yeah.
You visualize, right?
Yeah.
You know, so I did, like I said, 18 months of physical therapy. Once I left from that, I actually did end up needing a surgery on my ankle. So then I got right back into physical therapy. lots of physical therapy. And then, I started being able to just build my strength. I moved out into a home with some family friends, who helped me. They were like, oh, we'll take your trash out for you. We'll help you do this, get your groceries in. Awesome. So it was really helpful there. It let me be independent there. And then I was able to keep moving forward to move back into my own apartment by myself.
Incredible.
Yeah, that was really great. Just because it was a nice step to know that I could live by myself.
Yeah.
And, I decided I wanted to go be a occupational therapist. Actually, it was my goal. Mm-hmm. So I went back to UNCC and did pretty well there. I did not understand until I got there the impact that the car accident would have on my learning. Okay. So UNCC actually was very gracious, and they have a I can't think of the name of the department right now, but they offer you accommodations for class. So mine I got extra test time because it took me in the beginning longer to process my test questions. I had extra time to get to classes because I was still tired. So, I had an attendance waiver, which was, I think everyone thinks that's so crazy, but it's, everyone who's like healthy and doesn't need it says, oh, I would just use it for whenever. But mine is no, if I'm not there, I'm sick or I'm really just too exhausted to get to class. Right. And then there's a couple more small things that they offered there. And then I guess I kept going forward. Yeah. There was really no backwards. It was every time, okay, well, I can do this. Let's do it. Oh, well, we'll push it. Let's try it. Yeah. If you don't try, you're never going to get it.
Well, I don't want to mean to interrupt, but what I'm hearing is like you're making like you purposely maybe, or maybe not intentionally, you gave yourself like little mini goals. Like I'm going to live by myself. Okay, I did that. Okay, now I'm going to go back to school. Okay, I did that. Like, and so it kind of built you up, and you had like these small wins in your back pocket, which I think people can relate to in any journey that you're on. It's like you keep giving yourself those mini like pats on the back, if you will. And then that way it just sets you up to like, okay, I can do this. I can keep moving, which is what you just said. So sorry to interrupt, but I think that's like a good point to make as people are listening to this.
Yeah, always going forward. That's really kind of the goal. I mean, again, you have the moments of self-pity, but keep going forward. All of that led up to when I had my car accident, I'd missed. I feel like I missed it the first time of going into EMS. When I was 17, I got my nurse aid, and I've always been like healthcare minded. I missed it. But then after my car accident, I thought to myself, I thought that was done, but I thought, man, I really want to do that. Yeah. So when I was getting my degree, I also got my EMT certification. Wow. And I thought to myself, incredible. Why not try?
Yes.
So that was in 2021. And I, decided I didn't want to go to school anymore. I got done with it. I graduated, I got the degree, but you have to go to more school to get an OT. Mm-hmm. And I didn't feel like I was there. Mm-hmm. So I had done a couple ride times with getting your EMT or you have to, and I loved it. And so I switched gears and I started working for Mecklenburg County in 2021 as an EMT. And honestly, it has been just one of those things. Like if you just I'm going to try. Yeah. If I can't do it, then I can't, but I'm going to keep trying. I have been incredibly blessed there. I have some of the best people I've ever met are there, and it's been great. Actually, that's how I got to burn. Okay. So one of our supervisors, Allison, she is a member up in Mooresville, and I had been wanting to do something after my car accident, I got put on a lot of steroids, and I probably gained about 80 pounds, and I've sat in that weight for years, and it's been many years. I can't keep saying it's because of the car accident. I have to recognize that I haven't set myself good health goals. I've done other goals, but not health goals. And Allison always talks about how much she loves burn and how much she loves it. Mm-hmm. So I went up to her one day and she said, let's go. And it was like a week later, we were at Burn and Mallard Creek. She came to me because that was going to be my home location. Yeah. And Celeste was the trainer that day. And at the end of that day, I was like, yeah, let's sign up. Let's do it. I love this. It's been really great. This year's actually been kind of a weird one. I ended up with a new type of asthma this year. So it's a really severe form. And I spent 16 days in the hospital in July. Goodness. Yeah.
Was it because of your car accident or just that's just
bad genetics?
Okay. All right.
Is what I say. It was It was a little rough. I was fine. And then all of a sudden I wasn't fine. But when I was actually in the hospital, the doctor said, your lung capacity is much better than I would have expected. And I said, honestly, I've been doing all these workouts and I'd lost like 20 pounds. I've been doing really well. And he's like, this is helping you right now.
Yeah.
And he's like, this is why you're not as weak as you probably would be. So that was really great.
Yeah.
But now I'm back at Burn finally. And all the trainers are so great because there's a couple modifications right now.
Yeah.
But here we are. I guess that's all the way to 2023.
Yeah, I was going to say, can we just rewind and go back to the moment when you went from being in your wheelchair? Because you're in your wheelchair when you're at school. When did you learn, when were you walking again?
So I took my wheelchair to school the first semester just as a precaution, but I also at that point was walking.
Okay.
So there was a point where a little fear came into play. We take things for granted, like how just jumping up a flight of stairs or, well, not jumping, but walking up the stairs or long distance made me nervous. So we held on to that a little bit the first semester. I was able to walk by December of that year. My mom and I went to Disney World. We did take the wheelchair then.
So by December of 2021.
In 2017, I was back walking.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but
That's
not
incredible.
Where I was now.
Okay.
There definitely was a lot of, hey, is there gravel in this place we're going to? I'm not going.
Okay.
Oh, if I can't, handicap sticker, if I can't park next to the door and be 3 steps in, I'm not going.
Yep.
So there is also a learning curve there where it's like, you don't just walk and then you're done. Like it's just like everything is gone. So you have to I guess think about when you have a 2-year-old at home.
Because I do have a 2-year-old at home. Yeah, no, 100%.
You have to think about that, right? Like you and I can walk many miles now, but your 2-year-old's going to need a stroller after a while, or going to need
go back to crawling.
Yeah. It's kind of that concept, but I don't think, I'm not saying you don't, but I'm saying in general, people don't recognize that. They just think, oh, you're better.
Yeah.
Well, yes, but not back to my baseline.
Mm-hmm. So 2017, you're starting to make progress.
Yes.
So then by the time you get I'm just trying to walk people through the journey, because you obviously you didn't just go from being able to walk to then working out at Burn.
Right.
There was definitely a gap or a process there to get you to the point where then you could do our workouts.
Yes. Yeah. So some of that came in form of just being at home working out on my own. I did have a really good physical therapist who helped push me to do more. And, I just kept working out at home. I have little weights at home and walking. In my apartment, I walk the stairs. Especially when I first got there, to make sure I could do it.
Yeah.
And building that endurance.
Yep.
I will say I tried 2 other different fitness places back in 2020 and one in 2021. When I walked in, it was, you'll do our way or the highway.
Okay.
And there was no modifications. There was nothing. So I found that very discouraging. So when Allison said we could go, I actually was very nervous.
Yeah.
But of course, Burn has been nothing but, if you need to modify, we modify.
Yeah.
And they can just come up with something on the spot. I do not know how they do that, but they're just, there could be 20 of us who all need a modification, and they're just, we got you.
Yeah.
So I definitely modify still at Burn, but the floating floor really does help. It helps me feel like my knees don't hurt, or it just makes me feel steady, or a little bit of safety. And I also appreciate there's a recognition of we're not going to push you past where we think you're capable.
Yep.
And that makes me feel very safe at Burn to do what I can. I modify things a lot. That's okay.
Yeah,
but
no, it's totally okay.
I got to that point by, I guess, testing the waters.
Yeah.
Trying
it out. Well, and I will say, I think something that's different is all of our trainers at Burn they're certified personal trainers. So they actually have the degree, if you will, to make the modifications. And we always say we meet you where you are. And I think you're a really great example of this isn't meant to be a total plug for Burn Bootcamp, but I think it's really incredible, your story. And first, I'm just so proud of you.
Thank you.
You are such an inspiration for so many people. And I said this before we started rolling the camera, was not everyone's going to have a journey like yours, but we all have our own journeys, and everyone's journey is different. And I think I'm so appreciative of you sharing your story, because there's people that just might want to give up no matter what it is, but it's remembering that you just keep keep trying. Keep doing the things that you maybe you don't know if you can do it, but you never know if you don't try. And also like the mental toughness that you have, that's truly incredible.
Thank you.
So I hope you know like how incredible you are and how inspiring you are. And then it's just so great that we have communities like Burn Boot Camp that no one's going to judge you if you're modding down. Like you have probably, and I'm just going to assume like a community at Burn Boot Camp Mallard Creek that like they know you. Yes. Right? And you probably push them in different ways and they push you in different ways because everyone is on their own. They're on their own, like I said, journey. We all have our own goals. Yours might look different than mine. So can you just talk a little bit about the community and like what that means to you? I mean, so right now this will probably air in 2024. So we're giving you a little sneak peek. We're in 2023 still, but talk a little bit about like how Burn Boot Camp community has like changed just your mentality in the short time that you've been here.
So from the day that I walked into Burn, I felt very welcomed. So of course, Allison, my friend, she came to me at Mallard Creek. So that way, again, I could meet the people that I would be with. Yeah. And it has always felt like coming home every time I come there. After my asthma this summer, I walked back in just to touch base about what I was going to need when I came back. And people mid-workout ran off the floor to hug me. And I was like, whoa. And I was like, thank you. Yeah. I really appreciate that. I feel like, if someone hasn't seen me in a while, I get a touch, like someone's like, hey, I was going to say touch base. Yeah. Check in? Yeah. Sure. One of those words. Yeah. And they'll check in and they'll say, hey, I haven't seen you in a while. Hey, I haven't seen you in a while. And it never feels like pressure to come. It's like, hey, they care enough that they want me there. Again, any of the trainers, just being able to modify like what I need has been, it might not be community per se, but it feels community based. Yeah. Like they know A, remember well enough that I need that, and B, give me what I need. And I think that's so important,
You just feel seen.
I do. Yeah. I do. It makes me feel very good. I guess this is a plug for Burn because I guess. I mean, me too. I try to bring friends and I try to tell people about it. And, I just feel that the community, the bond there is really important. I mean, even just the high fives are so cool.
Go a long way, right?
Yeah, they really do. Like, just be walking past someone, they'll throw their hand out, and they're not in my group. They're not someone that I know personally, but it feels like, hey, they saw you and they want to congratulate you, or hey, they're going to tell you you have one more round in you. Oh, you have 5 more pounds. Like you can do a little more, and it just feels very like family based every time I'm there. And just like Jen was the one with me when I got my first box jump. And
that's awesome. Box jump. She was in a wheelchair. Now she's doing box jumps. That's amazing.
Crazy. I sent that to my mom and she called me crying. That's how much that was for her. But it was Jen. It was like, this is like someone who I would feel like is a friend right here with me to celebrate this. Not like some trainer who's not invested. It felt like she feels invested in my journey. Yeah. And that's so cool to me, that community based of that. And, I feel like, gosh, I've got like 100 extra like Instagram followers, but just, it's cool because it just feels very community. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like silly, they're followers, but like they're people that I also follow so we can see each other's lives.
Yeah. We're cheering each other on.
Yes. Yeah. It's very different than just some random person. Yeah. So I really appreciate all of that. And I really enjoy it.
So how are you feeling today?
Today I feel great. As we were talking before this, I don't remember who asked me if I was going to go today. And unfortunately I don't, because I work night shifts. So I'm actually going to go home from this and go to bed. And then I'll go to work tonight. So I won't get to go today. But every day I feel like I want to go now. And even, it makes me, I feel good. Like I feel very good about going. I feel good about like where my mental place is, and my physical health is a lot better than it was. Yes, the asthma is severe, but honestly, Burn is helping me through that. And I've there's some chronic pain just unfortunately from it, but it's not as bad as it was. So we just keep going with it and moving forward.
Keep moving forward. I think that's going to be the title of this episode, because if there's one thing that I'm pulling from this, it's, again, I've said it and I'll say it again, no matter where you're at, just keep moving forward.
Yes.
I'm just so thankful for you for sharing your story. This was so helpful for me, for anyone that's listening. So thank you, LeAnna.
Thank you for
your time. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. Yeah.
And then you guys, make sure you're following us on social media. Listening on all of the podcast channels. We're on Apple Podcasts. We're on Spotify. We're also on YouTube. Wow. So you can see LeAnna's beautiful face on Spotify and on YouTube. We have video on YouTube. And drop us an email. We have an email address if the story inspired you. If you have your own story, we love to hear people's stories in Burn Nation, because everyone's story is different. And transformation to us is not just physical. It's mental. We lean more mental than physical. So we want to hear your story too. So please share it with us. And I'll go ahead and take us out. All right. 2 claps on 2. 1, 2. Bye.